Apple's sci-fi action horror The Gorge is arriving on the platform with Miles Teller and Anya-Taylor Joy as the leads. Is this going to be a thrilling watch, or is it going to be lifeless drivel? Two highly trained operatives become close after being sent to protect opposite sides of a mysterious gorge. When an evil emerges, they must work together to survive what lies within. So Scott Derrickson is the dude who helmed movies like Sinister, The Black Phone, and Doctor Strange. And now he's bringing that seasoned experience and then combining it to craft a tense and effective watch. The film captures something that feels like it's been lost in the art of storytelling, at least in recent years. The plot actually takes the time to build a connection with the characters well before thrusting them, and then us, into any perilous danger. I mean, for probably 30-ish minutes, we watch Miles Teller and Anya-Taylor Joy maintaining their respective outposts on opposite sides of this massive gorge that is who knows how deep and then filled with swirling fog and mist. Now, we watch them do mundane tasks like walking perimeters, checking weaponry, and fence lines too, even quietly just eating alone. And while there's not a ton of dialogue during this time, like almost zero, we are gaining huge insight into their mannerisms and their mindsets. Now, there comes a point, and it's shown in the trailer, where the pair breaks protocol and communicates with each other via signs. Again, this is not a rushed moment. It comes after we've seen them function in isolation for quite a while. And the movie captures an endearing connection between the two, despite the fact that they've never met in person, nor ever actually spoken to each other. Their only interactions have come through observances, and then eventually through those handwritten signs. Now, surprisingly, this is very effective in creating and then maintaining a semi-long-distance relationship, and one that I was totally rooting for. Both actors are charming in their own sense, and because they are both damaged characters with huge amounts of baggage, they can also share an understanding that most wouldn't be able to. And this works to make their conversations even more effective and engaging. I mean, I don't want to send the message that while all of this slow character development is taking place, that the pace of the film drags or maybe it becomes boring. It really is the opposite. We can feel this emotional bond build, and that anticipation and excitement, it translates well through the screen. And then when the inevitable action and danger begin, we're fully invested in the characters, fearful for their safety and intensely focused on their attempts at survival. There's a firefight that happens, and the visual that we get, spectacular. I mean, it's not anything new to see tracer bullets in movies so that we can watch the bullets soar through the air with these red tails. I mean, it's kind of like lasers. Here, because of the weaponry that's in play, it is quite the sight. And to make it even more visually dramatic, the sequence takes place at night, so the sky becomes illuminated with a barrage of bright red streaks. Now, the cast is pretty sparse for this, with really only two other main players outside of Teller and Taylor Joy. We have Sope Dirisu and Sigourney Weaver, one playing a soldier, the other a government spook. Now, Dirisu's character works to provide a lot of background on the lore of the Gorge. And although this info comes as an exposition dump, it feels natural just thanks to the circumstances of both the outpost and the position he's briefing Teller on. Now, during this time also, when Teller and Dirisu share the screen, this is the weakest part that the visuals ever look in the film. I'm not sure if there were any reshoots going on or what, but the skyline and the backgrounds that we see behind the duo when they're in this outpost, they are very obviously green screened. And because this comes towards the beginning of the movie, it really did worry me for the rest of what we'd be shown, especially when the elements of the Gorge came into play. Now, thankfully, this is the weakest the visuals and the graphics ever get, which is why I wondered if this was the result of maybe reshoots. I mean, from the dense and foreboding fog that envelops the gorge to the dangerously threatening surprises that are contained within it, the graphics, makeup, and any CGI, it's very convincing. Because we see in the trailer that our characters go into the gorge at some point, the landscape we're shown becomes creatively otherworldly. To call it desolate or treacherous, it would be accurate, but not complete. It's like a nightmare zone, filled with imagery that is haunting, but strangely beautiful. And the best way I could describe it is to think something similar to some of those environments in Annihilation, where bodies become enmeshed with plant life, creating macabre and dreadful sculptures that are distressing to look at, to say the least. The sets, they're expertly made so they appear believably lifelike. And I love, too, that there is an air of mystery that surrounds the entire mythos of the Gorge. What we're told is vague and not complete, which may not hold huge intrigue for the characters, but as the audience, it would build a tempting world just longing to be explored, despite the horrors that it could contain. And for those who don't enjoy ambiguous storylines, don't worry, because we are provided with concrete story arcs full of explanations that not only make sense for the plot, but also fill in gaps that are intentionally created at the start of the film. I think this story does run the risk of being a little too generic at its core, meaning the driving motive isn't something unique or novel, but the way this is presented, it gives it a fresh feel, taking something we've seen before, then turning on its head to build an excellent mix of nightmare fuel, mystery, violence, and romance. Now, I didn't realize it while watching, but this is 2 hours and 7 minutes long. It didn't feel like that at all. There are the more patient moments, as I had mentioned, especially during the character building phase, but the story has a clear on-ramp of tension and excitement so that when the urgency kicks in, it's frantic and harried, with a pounding momentum, and it just had my heart rapidly beating. So overall, The Gorge is a surprising amalgamation of action, thrills, romance, and sci-fi, all of which work to complement each other while being led by two endearing and enthralling performances by Teller and Taylor-Joy. When the action kicks in, it's balls-out intensity with horrifying imagery and heart-pounding excitement. The romance angle is incredibly effective, reinforcing a dynamic that makes the duo a formidable and deadly team. The core story is a little simplistic, and some beginning visuals need improvement, but thanks to deliberate and thorough character building, believable motives, and makeup and effects that form ghastly imagery, The Gorge delivers a movie that deserves a big-screen theatrical release to match the awesomeness that it contains. There's sex, very brief nudity, some profanity, then a ton of violence. I give The Gorge 4.5 out of 5 couches. Definitely put this on your watch list to check out. Alright, so have you seen any other great sci-fis lately? I'd love to hear about what you watched in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.